black men in America is the most hated in this world. Just because of his color. He always has struggled, and he probably always will struggle until we unite together as a people, as a black people. If that doesn't happen, we'll always be going down, not up but down. So we will have to unite together. The black man will have to look at his brother and love his brother, help his brother, respect his brother, love himself for us to exist. We have to help each other, or we'll be doomed.
feelings around the verdict, the case, all of that. And so I know that I, along with other people in my community, feel a lot of the same way. It was brought to my attention that maybe there could be a discussion with this generation, younger generation, older generation, whoever is interested in something, making a change, making a difference, right? And how do we do that? Because I believe in my heart that, our community, this generation, has so much that we can do together to make a difference. So, talk to powers that be, Skip being one of them, to come in and see how we can bring together a group of individuals that would be interested in doing something like that. One, two, just my heart for the community as a whole and my belief in us that we can do something is why I'm here. So I want to help facilitate this discussion because I believe that there are people you're here for. We're here in this room because you you want to be here or whatever, you're here. So thank you all for coming, number one. And then two, your participation, of course, is always appreciated. And you being here says a lot. So to start the discussion, one, I because I know, as I started to say, my feelings and emotions around this issue were real, right? Everybody's feelings are real. And so I wanted to hear from other people in the community around your feelings and how do you feel even today. It's like, what, 2-3 weeks later after, what do you feel? What is still there? What's not there? Or even if you can reflect back to 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, how did you feel?
It took me to the point where there's no value for black life. There's no value for, it took me to us against them again. Us versus them, white people versus black people sort of mentality. And saying that now we have to justify why our children should be alive, why we should be alive. And it also made me think about Michael Vick and all the time when he get 28 months for, fighting dogs. And this man kills a young boy, and they say, well, he had to stand your ground law, so he's able to go free. So it brought about a bunch of bitterness and emotions that was already bottled up inside, and they came out. But one of the things that I was thinking is to be loud and active in the community, but it wasn't to
It irks me when I hear folks say, well, it wasn't about race, and it wasn't only about race, but race definitely played a part of it.
Race played, yeah, because my thing with that is this here. I don't paint George Zimmerman to be the white sheet wearing, cross burning racist, but I paint him to be that person that was trained to profile black people by the level of systematic racism that they teach.
I'm glad you said that, because you say systematically. And of course, even in our, get back to our justice system, how can you say it was not about race, but it was even introduced as part of the trial that two African-American men young men had broken into a neighbor's house. Not even, they had nothing to do with Trayvon Martin, but because they were young African-American, well, what is that? That's not profiling.
Okay, do you think the police in Sanford, Florida, you think they were involved in initially trying to make this a cover-up?
The reality of it is, and it's something that the 800-pound gorilla in the room is, you have Zimmerman's father, who's an ex-judge. Come on, let's be serious. We got to be. The reality of it is, and we can't be mad at him. That's just a reality. His father used whatever pull and whatever juice he had, because they stay on the street, whatever juice that he had to do what he could to save his son.
Right, exactly. Now, now let us say this here. If Trayvon Martin had been white and George Zimmerman had been black, what would the outcome of that would have been?
He never, first of all, Zimmerman would have went to jail and never got out of jail.
Okay, if Trayvon Martin was of age, armed, and able to stand his ground against George Zimmerman, what do you think would have been the result?
Again, the results would have been, I believe in my heart, that the word would have been matching the level of force with the level with the intent. I believe that they would.
First thing come to mind when I think of Rodney King, I'm glad they got it on tape. Still, all in all, I hoped he would have did right with by his money he received.
Do you remember the day the verdict was announced for the 4 officers that beat Rodney King? And how did you feel when you heard that 3 of the officers were acquitted?
Yeah, I remember that day. I was watching it on TV. I was here in LA, and I couldn't believe it. But I felt reassured when the President of the United States, George Herbert Walker Bush, came on television, and he was surprised too. He said that they were going to file charges against them. So I knew eventually these guys were going to go to prison. But yeah, I was I was very disappointed because if I was on that jury, I would have came back with a guilty verdict on all 4 of them.
Okay, do you remember the day of the riot? What did you think when you saw the city explode into madness?
Man, during the riots, I was a youngster, just like these youngsters are out here right now rioting during the Trayvon Martin protests. And, you know, I wasn't surprised because everyone was talking about it. There was rumors circulating in the air that if this verdict goes south, that it's going to be a riot. But, you know, I wasn't alive for the 1965 riot, so I had never seen what an urban riot looked like.
Right.
So that was a first for me. Of course, I've seen it on television, I've seen it in documentaries, but to actually see it in front of you and to see Western burnt from Venice all the way down to Century, to see Crenshaw on fire, to see Vermont, to see all the corridors that you hung out on fire, that was something amazing.
First and foremost, Trayvon Martin was a child. George Zimmerman was a grown man, and you don't violate children like that. I mean, I don't care who, how, or what. You know what I mean? He killed that young man. Trayvon Martin was 17 years old. The thing about that was that, and like we look now, if you see someone walking down the street, and they just walking down the street, they have a right. And what that right is, they have the right to be left alone. You have a right to go about your business as long as you're not bothering, annoying, or causing any kind of harm to anyone. So the reality of that is that, you know, when Trayvon Martin was killed, the system in Florida somewhat justified it because of the fact of stand your ground. But the only person that was left to tell the story was George Zimmerman. It's like the old days when people used to get killed in Los Angeles in gang-related murders, and they would always say, well, what happened? We would say, well, there's only 2 people that know what happened, the person that was killed and the person that killed him. So the reality of that is that when it came down to that, Trayvon Martin wasn't even around to tell his story. So, you know, in my opinion, he was murdered in cold blood. I mean, how much harm could he do with a bag of Skittles? You know, I mean, he's walking through a community in the United States of America where we can roam free as we want to be, as long as we're not trespassing or we're not hurting nobody or we're not bothering anyone's property.
What did the police dispatch tell Zimmerman to do after he called 911?
The police dispatch told Zimmerman to stand down. They told him, don't pursue
Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin. You know, I kind of kept up with that case a little bit all the way to Stanton, Florida. It started way back with the NAACP on how they killed a man, hung a man. Then even on with Jackie Robinson in Stanton, how when he was in training camp, they told him, you better get out of there before they kill him. Then centuries later with Trayvon Martin, on how he was followed, shot, and killed. First thing comes to my mind is when they said they could not tell who was screaming. Why would anybody with a gun in their hand be screaming for help?
This is my way of giving back due to the fact that a lot of black families can't afford funerals. What they do is they give out giveaways, food drives, car washes, anything they can do to raise the money to have a funeral. So what I do is I try to help them out the best way I can is to offer them funeral service at the lowest price that we can get it at. Maybe sometimes $1,500, $2,000, $2,000 with a funeral, $4,580 with a burial. So that's what I do for the community.
That's reasonable. I buried somebody and I already know the cost of what it costs. You know what I mean?
Expensive.
So now, at what point did you seek your transition in life? Like how you say you so dope, you was out there gangbanging, you was out there running with all these gang members and all this here.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that, you know, there was a need for change, a transition, or something to give back and help your people?
Well, when I looked around in the community, we were all hurting each other one by one. One black man falling here, one black man falling there. But when I got outside the neighborhood and I started walking around these different areas and I'm meeting guys from 60s and 40s and 30s and different sets, and I started noticing like we all think alike, but we just grew up in different areas. So I got myself with these different groups of guys and I started saying like, dang, this is different than being stuck on one street and one block and being known as this in your area. But what are you outside your area? Once you get outside your area, who knows you? And once you leave the block and you don't know nobody, you starting all over from scratch.
new psychology, man. We need a new way of thinking. All of us got certain secret knowledge that we got because of our experiences. And we're starting to bring them out right now. But all of us got a key to turn this around because we turn ourselves around. And we got to form some kind of concept. We can't have that old psychology. We have to have a new psychology. We have to have the psychology from our experiences to get us up. I've been in penitentiary 45 years. I started on death row. That ain't nothing. But look, we out here doing it. But look, I just want to say this to everybody right here. It was one dude, he was heavy in the game. And he was heavy. And so he wanted to get out. And they said, no, you can't get out. And he told them, he said, do you know what, man? He said, all the work I put in, I was willing to give my life for some stupid stuff. What more do you think I'm willing to give my life for something that's righteous? So y'all is on the right good track, man. And y'all was brave. If you was a coward, then you still don't have the truth. You still don't have the knowledge. So y'all got a knowledge and y'all got a truth to be functionary, put it in the right direction. You already going, just keep going in the right direction. We need to get this new thought and we need to write a new script.
All right. Someone in scripture, there has to be some structure. Someone has to assume some responsibilities to keep things totally in order. See, because number one, the biggest picture was that the people just like you mentioned earlier, 1992, I was in that riot in 92. And I was one of those people that was out of control. I was one of those people that was just acting because I was caught up in the wave of pandemonium. But the bigger picture with that is that when things happen like this and we all are going through a certain level of discontentment from, like you feel injustice, what happens is that then we have this disorganized confusion that takes place. Suddenly we don't understand what justice is. We thought justice was burning down the supermarket where we buy our milk at, or going down the street to the corner store where we go every day and buy some sodas for the kids at, and breaking all the windows out or looting, whatever it is, where we the same place we patronize regularly. But the bigger picture with that is that, just like 92, there was no level of structure. See, the leadership is so fragmented that there's no one ideology that everybody can follow. So everybody's following a bunch of different things, and then at the same time what's taking place is that, you got these people saying this, you got these people doing that, different agendas settled. Now everybody's looking at the whole picture, but now we in the middle wondering what's going on while everybody on the outside is going crazy. And it's funny now, because now, like, when they were going crazy out there, I had those concerns like the elders had in 92. And I'm looking saying, man, I hope they don't get to my neighborhood and start burning out stuff. But it's funny because I understand and I can see, what I mean? And that's the biggest problem, is structure within itself. Because we need people that are capable of guiding the young people. I've seen a lot of young activism, and I've seen a lot of young people out there with signs and demonstrating they want to be heard. That's important. Maybe in the future, that level of leadership